Once you arrive on stage or on set, the chemistry of working with other actors in the present moment, there will be a sort of harmony that will just, sorry, I'm getting quite excited, but I love this. Hello, my name is Lampaert. I'm an actor and a comedian, and in this video I answer some questions that I often get asked about craft and technique, and I wrote my answers down because I do get distracted sometimes. What's your process for preparing for a role? Right, what did I write? Know the text, come to rehearsals prepared, then forget the text so you can be present, you can listen to your fellow actors, you can react appropriately in the moment. Let it surprise you, right? If you've done the work on the text, and by work I mean you've memorized the lines, and I'm talking about memorizing them, like you bloody know the words, right? So you've memorized it to the point where you don't have to think about it. It just bellows out of you. And then you've done the work on your character, right? What does X want? Like, what does your character want? Not only in the entire story, right? So we all have different goals. Like I have a goal for today, but I also have a goal for the end of this year, but I also have a goal like in 10 years. There are things I'm sort of aiming towards. So what does X want, right? The character that you're playing. And therefore that, you know, knowing the context, the background of your character, the environment, where do they live? Like, you know, having done essentially the work that's all provided in the text, once you've memorized the lines, and it's just inside of you, and it's waiting to come out because you've digested it and you've brewed it with all these ingredients. Once you've done that work, technically, you should be chill. Because once you arrive on stage or on set, the chemistry of working with other actors in the present moment, there will be a sort of harmony that will just, sorry, I'm getting quite excited, but I love this. The things will just come out. And I think for me, that's probably the most important thing, is make sure that you arrive on set with, you know, the lines really memorized to the point where you can forget them, which I know sounds like a paradox, but it just needs to, so you can come out with it and just play with the words and let it surprise you. I think that's one, because when I'm speaking, like I'm speaking right now for the first time, hello, words, live and stream of consciousness. Like I am essentially hearing it for the first time myself. And so I'm sometimes surprised by what I say because I hadn't prepared for it. It's the same thing for the characters. The characters don't know they have a script because they are living their lives. And so that's, I think, so important. I've often seen actors, and I imagine I have myself been the perpetrator of this, but it's like we wait for our time to say the line. And so then it's not like we're reacting, we're just acting what we've said we would do for the character. But really, acting is also reacting. You want to hear how they say it. So maybe how you then respond will be actually different to what you'd prepared. And therefore, you need that flexibility. And all of that, flexibility, presence, being able to listen to your partners, all of that can only happen if you've done the work on the text, on the script. If you've made it this far in a video, thank you, firstly, that's really nice. But it also means that maybe you like me a little bit, eh? And that's really nice, so thank you very much. Or maybe you just like the art of storytelling. And if you do, like this video and subscribe to the channel for more on the craft of acting and the world of stories in which we coexist. All right, thank you, love you. Obviously, every role is different. Like, for example, I am preparing for a role. End of March, I'm going back to shoot a character that I did for a season 1 for a French-Canadian TV show.
Hello, Je m'appelle Bob, mais tout le monde m'appelle Bobette. pour des raisons évidentes.
À propos d'Antoine, and I played a character called Bobette, which is like, he's a weirdo, but a lovely, lovable weirdo, which is essentially, I've been typecast. And À propos d'Antoine is a really beautiful series about life as parents with a son that is essentially wheelchair bound and needs a lot of assistance for his physical and mental health, and life essentially with that, but touching on the comedic side. It's a really beautiful story. And for example, one of the things I have to prepare is I have to grow my beard back, right? That's not much work. As you can see from the last video, I had it shaved and now I'm a bit stubbly. In about a month's time, I'm gonna have a nice old beard. So there are different things to do when preparing for a role. As I was editing the video, I realised I forgot something. I mean, that's bound to happen, because how do you prepare for a role? Well, there's so many different avenues that you can take, right? It's like a game tree. There's so many different things that you could focus on. For me personally, I think working on the text and memorising the lines is just number one. That's what I think. But for example, for Bobette, who I'm about to play, I forgot to say that I have to work on the accent, right? And it's not like I'm doing it for the first time. So this particular job, I have to match the accent. Because, you know, if you play a character and you only do 2 days, right, on a movie that will never get a sequel, or the character will never like re-emerge, you could sort of do anything. It doesn't really matter, right? Because I don't know why that came out, but it doesn't really matter too much. But then you have to match it if somehow that character comes back. So with Bobette, not only does he speak French, which is fine because I'm fluent, but it's like I Americanized him slightly, because obviously it's North America, right? It's Canada, but you know, North America, the continent. So I need to like work on that, and sometimes for me, finding the accent, finding the voice still takes a little bit of work. But that's part of preparing for a role. You know, what does your character sound like? And make sure that when you found it, that you are consistent throughout the production. You can't sound like one thing, you know, at the beginning, and then because you've found a new way of working it in your mouth or whatever, suddenly it transforms into a different voice. Now it's got to match. And one of the fun examples of if you like, my professionalism is I did a movie called The Thing with Feathers, and I played Crow, and Crow, I was sort of playing with something very catonic, like sort of really breathy, and that's not what the director had in mind. And he always had actually David Thewlis in mind for the voice of Crow. And so when I came to rehearsals, I sort of did my interpretation of it. And then Benedict said, okay, what would really help me is if you do your version for one take, but then for another take, once we get the sort of physicality correctly, I would need you to like sort of stay silent, just so I can imagine David Thewlis, right? Because he has a different kind of cadence and tone. And I said, yeah, no worries. And because I had 1 week between rehearsal and shoot, I thought, you know what? I'm going to take it on myself to arrive on set and sound as much as I can like David Thewlis. So I worked with a voice coach and arrived on set with a pretty decent impression. In fact, Benedict was very kind when he did like the Stephen Colbert interviews, and he mentioned a couple of times that I arrived on set and I did the work. And I think that's really important, because even though I knew I was going to get dubbed, although I was trying to steal his job, just in case the producers are like, he sounds perfectly great and he'll be cheaper than David. But I thought it was important to show up with professionalism, and it was a really fun exercise actually to do that. Well, could I do it again? God, it was 2 years ago. Yeah. I did a bit of work, so it was a lot easier back then. I'm Crow. Oh, yes. So I was sort of like trying to get David. That wasn't a great impression, but you know what I mean. You know, with a bit of practice, with a bit of repetition, I would have got it right. And then obviously the physicality. For Crow was something that it took me weeks to prepare. But I did a video on creature work, which you can check out here. So yeah, click on that if you want to see a little bit more of that. Anyway, that was it. I just wanted to add a little bit more. Is the role based on a character that exists? Right? If that character is a real person, then you have a depth of knowledge from which you can play with. You know, that I think there's different ways of preparing for a role. If it's physical, then you better start going to the gym and stretching and running, and I mean, I should be doing that regardless because my body's starting to show my age. People have said that I look quite young, which I will take as a compliment. I look quite young, but there's some parts of my body is going, no, you're faulty. So there are different ways of preparing for a role, and I actually should look into that because I want to keep getting better. But for me, hands down, it's know your words, know the text, know it, get so familiar with it that it permeates inside of you, and then it can't wait to come out, you know. And I think that allows to, instead of painting by numbers, it allows you to create art on the canvas. It allows for your subconscious to explode on this empty space, which you can create something beautiful with. And of course, there's monologues and there's dialogues, right? So a monologue, okay, you have a bit more room to finesse how you want to perfectly interpret what you want to say. But with a dialogue, with multiple actors in a scene, that's where you have to be listening, you have to be present, you have to be flexible. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's worth repeating. It's really important. And I think that's how I prepare for a role. All right, catch you later. Thank you for watching the video, and if you are going to the Edinburgh Festival in 2026, then come and check out my show 0-1. If not, I will be taking it on tour, hopefully in the UK, in Europe, and the world, dare I say. And if you're watching this way into the future, I mean, hello, isn't this amazing? Hello, maybe I'm alive, maybe I'm dead, I don't know. But if I am alive, then I'm probably still doing stuff creatively. And so, yeah, hello, subscribe, and maybe I'll see you. Maybe we'll never meet. Isn't it amazing? Oh, life is amazing.